And the judge looked us over and he said, the guy I was with was named Pat. And he says, Pat, you look like an honest man. You tell us what happened there. And Pat, well, Your Honor, he says, Indian Mary was bent over picking up this piece of stove wood with her ass. The judge rapped the bench and he said, Pat, if you have to use that word, you'll call it the lady's posterior. He said, okay, now tell what happened. And he said, well, like I was saying, Indian Mary was bent over picking up this wood with her, what the hell was that you called her ass again, Judge? Boy, the courtroom erupted into laughter.
Is there any message you want to give your kids, Dad?
Tony wants to know about some more of my experiences. I'm up on that steel when it started raining. I went up to El Dorado, Colorado, where the swimming pool was, and they had a 3-meter tower, 10-meter tower there to dive from. And there was nobody else in the pool. I'm all by myself, and I took a shower there and ran up on the tower and getting ready to dive off. And these Jewish people that owned the pool and the whole thing at El Dorado Springs, in fact, they were yelling at me, waving their arms, yelling at me. And I'm deaf. I don't know what they're saying. I waved back and I took off of the tower and looked down, and the damn pool was only half full. Well, I hit the bottom of the pool and broke my head open right between my eyebrows. I come up bleeding like a stuck hall, and the Jews were worried to death I was going to sue them. They were trying to tell me that the pool was only half full, but I couldn't hear them. I thought they were waving hello. Then when I got up in Alaska, I got another scar right in the same place. Dan, the bookkeeper, the mine clerk over at Bonanza Mine, and we had a toboggan, and we were trying to make it the 4 miles down to the mill. We were going to try to make that in 4 minutes with this toboggan. Well, on the way down, we had to jump over this little creek on our toboggan trail. One bank was lower than the other, of course, going downhill. And this time, his brother had come up from Seattle, so we got on this toboggan and he was steering the front and I was riding tiller in the back with his brother in between us. And when we jumped this ditch, his stupid brother of his turned loose, and his head hit me right between the eyes and knocked me cold, and I fell off. And they didn't miss me until they got down to the mill. And I'm laying up there colder than a wedge. And they came up and hauled me down to the hospital. So I had another scar right between my eyebrows. Then after we got here to Wyoming, or Missouri, after we'd been here 15 years, I started showing blood in my urine, and the doctors decided that I had cancer of the bladder. So they got out their cystoscope and took a look, and they found tumors in the bladder. So they removed the tumors, and I went on bleeding. So they opened me up and they removed a kidney and part of the bladder. They darn near lost me too when they operated on me that time. They had one blood vessel in my stomach that they didn't clamp, didn't suture, I guess. And it was bleeding. And I'm laying in bed and I sneezed and broke out the stitches in my incision. And they thought they were about to lose me, so they had me sign a release when they were hurrying to take me to the operating room and get back in there. And the priest came along and gave me extreme unction and put the ashes on my forehead. Mama showed up and I told her, I said, well, I've had extreme unction and I've been anointed and I'm going back into surgery, and if I don't come out, Mama, it's okay. I love you. Don't worry about it. But they saved me again. And I'm laying there helpless in bed, and this other guy, he has to make some money. This other surgeon comes along, and I had vomited some green bile. And he said, boy, we ought to take your gallbladder. You know, I should have got a second opinion on that. But he kept bothering me and hounding me that he was going to take out that gallbladder. I think all he did, well, he wanted the money was all. So finally I said, all right, let's do it. So here I am just recovering from the first operation, and he cuts me open again and takes out my gallbladder. So a year later I go back for an examination. They take another cystoscope. They took a bone scan. They took a CAT scan. They took all kinds of x-rays. No more cancer. I said, to Dr. Ellis, I said, you told me that cancer was malignant. Actually, it was benign, wasn't it? He said, no, it was malignant. I said, well, how come it's all gone? He said, well, I don't know. He said, but you don't have cancer now. I said, well, they must have been benign. Those tumors must have been benign, not malignant. But no, he insisted they were malignant. Anyway, I don't show up with, but I got a terrible back now. I think I have a crushed vertebrae at the bottom of my spine. I walk bent over. My back hurts all the time unless I'm on my reclining chair. It's the only place I can rest. But Tony and Louie and little Louie showed up here to stay a few days for my father's day and birthday, but they didn't stay. Tony's the only one who stayed until my birthday. And he's leaving today on my 85th birthday. He's going back to California. Yes, I've had experience with Tony. Well, at the time, Pat and I were going to make the Explorers Club. At that time, on the map of Alaska, there was a dotted line behind the Endicott Mountains. And according to all the geographic dope up there, there should have been a river in that valley. But anybody that could prove whether or not there was a river in there would automatically become a member of the Explorers Club, which is a very exclusive club. And on the map, there was a dotted line and the words Wind River in italics, Wind River and a question mark. They didn't know whether there was a river in there or not. Pat and I made it over there and we still don't know whether there's a river in there. There was 70 feet of snow in that valley. There might have been a river under there, but we don't know whether there was or not. But on the way over there, we came to a trapper's cabin, and the trapper wasn't there, so we went in the cabin anyway, and there was a pot of stew boiling away on the stove. We helped ourselves to the stew, and the trapper came. We were still in the cabin, and he showed up, and we said, by the way, we helped ourselves to the stew that you had on the stove. And the trapper said, oh, the dogs won't miss it. That's okay. He was boiling up a bunch of those rock conies, a little gopher-like brown animal up there. He was boiling up that meat for his dogs. Oh, and that beer they served down there. After you got into the interior in Alaska where the supplies came in by dog sled, the unit of exchange was $1. Everything you bought was $1. An egg was $1. A potato, regardless of size, was $1. A pound of sugar or a pound of flour was $1. A package of cigarettes was $1. Well, that's because it came in by dog sled. After they started bringing it in by airplanes, it was a lot cheaper. Pat showed me how to cover glare ice with water running over it in the wintertime in freezing weather. We wore felt boots, of course, inside our mucklucks for warmth. But anyway, he cut a willow twig and he sat down at the edge of the stream and started flicking water on his boots with this little willow switch until we had a coating of ice on our boots. And then instead of taking steps, we slid our foot along feet along the ice. And after we crossed and got the other side, we knocked our feet together and knocked the ice off, and we had dry feet. Oh, and of course our potatoes froze on us. We were carrying potatoes, and so I was going to thaw some potatoes on. I melted snow and put on a pot and got hot water and dropped these potatoes in there, and when Pat came back, he forked a potato out and cut it open, and it was coal black. He said, "You didn't drop these potatoes in hot water, did you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "No, you always thaw potatoes in cold water. Don't drop them in hot water." Yeah, before we started on that trip, Pat went through my pack sack too. He threw out my camera, my .45 caliber, and he said, "You get another pair of boots and some socks in here. We haven't got room for that camera and that gun." Who is that out there?
I don't know. Okay. We're gonna change tapes.